Welcome to my how to sew a welt pocket tutorial. This is basically what a welt pocket is. This is one I've already done. This is the welt part on the outside, and as you can see your hand slips in at the top there, and it looks very crisp and neat on the outside, and on the inside this is where the party happens. You've got a lining pocket bag. You could use cotton instead, but you'll be familiar with these. They're used a lot on outerwear, particularly coats and jackets. So I've used my Danehill coat as an example for this little tutorial. Let's get started. So I'm going to show you how I've marked mine out. You'll see that the size I've marked in a colour, and I've put an extra bit of interfacing underneath where my welt's going to go. I've marked this colour so that I know this is my size. It's really clear because it can be a bit confusing if there are a lot of lines. I'd recommend you do that around all your pattern pieces. And I'm just popping a pin into these corner points so that I can transfer these markings onto my fabric. There we go. So you'll see they already correspond with the little crosses that I'd put on, and you can see that rectangle's about 1 centimetre in every dimension larger than my welt pocket will be. So just pull these out a little bit so I don't lose them. And I'm going to mark with some chalk where these pins come through the fabric, and that will give me a good starting point for marking out my pocket. Okay, so this is my waistline, and this is my pockets where it's going to go, so it's going to fold upwards. So this is going to be where I lay my welt to. Obviously I'll do it a bit neater in a minute. So now we need to prep the welt. Here we go. I've got 2 welts here, and I've got, these are my pockets that are cut out of lining. I've got a back pocket and a front pocket here, so you can see one is just slightly longer, and the idea is that when you put your welt on and everything, they should be the same size when you turn them through, but we'll come to that later. So welts here, they've been interfaced obviously. I've cut 2. I'm just going to fold them in half lengthways like that and just stitch down these ends. There we go. We'll clip the corners. Just grade that little bit there just to make it a bit less bulky, and then you can turn them through. If you've got a turning tool, you might need to use it to help release the points. I'm going to use a pencil, but again I'd recommend you use a tool or a blunt knitting needle. There we go, just tease those out a little bit. They just need a press. So there we go, welt's done. Okay, so now we're going to stitch these welts on with the pocket bags. There you go, I've smartened that line up nice and straight. Here's my welt pocket. I'm going to just place that on. That's how it's going to look when it's sewn. So I need to flip it over, and I want to align the raw edge with that chalk line. Pop a pin in. Now we've got the pocket bag. That's the front one. This is the back one. Remember, the back one's slightly longer. Now I've got a right side and a wrong side to my lining. So that's the front one. I'm going to place the fabric the right side down towards the coat, so it's right sides together, and you want to imagine that you're going to fold it back through the hole. So that's how you want your pocket to look. That's my waist, so you're going to put your hand down towards the hem. So right sides together, just double check that, and then I'm going to match these raw edges up together. Pop some pins in. You can hand sew these, tack it in place as well. That's a sensible option. Now this is my back pocket, so I need it to face that way, but that's the wrong side, so I need that one. So that's how it should look. And then when you fold it through, that right side will be showing inside the pocket. So lay those raw edges together, again right side down, and we're going to pop a couple of pins in, and then we're going to stitch. We'll do the welt first. I'm going to rest my machine foot on the edge, on that raw edge, and I'm going to stitch from this welt. So my first stitch will go in the edge of the welt. Don't go over the welt, stay within it. So I'll pop a little pin in there. I can feel it through as it's quite a hard ridge. And I'm going to stitch, and then I'm going to stitch the other pocket bag on as well. So here we go. So resting the edge of my sewing machine foot, which is about 1 centimetre away from the edge, back tack to start, and carefully stitch all the way through to the other end of the welt. Don't overshoot. You can always hand wheel that last stitch or two to avoid going over. Back tack and come off. And then I'm going to do the same with the other pocket bag. I'm going to start just inside that previous line, but I'm going to put the edge of my foot on that raw edge. So back tack to start, back tack to finish. Okay, so here we go. You can see, I'll show you a close-up of those stitch lines. You can see the lower one has got the welt underneath it, and the top one is the pocket bag back, which is not got the welt. So that's my waist and my hem, and that's how my pocket's going to be when I push it through this hole. So that's my first stitch line that stitched the welt on, and then you can see that second line is just a couple of stitches shorter than the first one. And then I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to cut through the centre here, making little triangles at the end. You can draw it on first if you want to, but I'll just show you exactly what the shape is going to be that I'm going to cut. So those snips go right to that last stitch. Use very sharp scissors. Be careful not to stitch your cut your stitching. There we go, nice sharp point on these. Keep your pocket bags out of the way, you don't want to cut into those. And I'm going to start in the middle and just snip carefully and slowly, parallel to those lines, till I get to about 1 centimetre from the end, and then I'm going to angle it in and snip into that last stitch. Don't go beyond the stitching. Okay, those all important triangles. Here we go. Make sure again that the fabric's out the way. You don't want a hole in your pocket before you've even started. And I'm going to snip towards that last stitch again. That's it, right into that corner, forming a lovely little neat triangle at the end. It's quite thick at this point, so just take your time and just nibble away at the fabric with the scissors. There we go. Right into that stitch. Okay, so now we've got our pocket bags attached and we've cut our hole. I'm going to push these through. Now this needs a little bit of fiddling because you need to find these all important little triangles on the end. So you'll just need to gently pull these into place and pull them through, and then the idea is that we poke as much of the lining through as we can. We're going to give it a little press, I think, to start with, just to sort of hold it in place a little bit. Let's poke those little triangles through. Yeah, I'll give it a press to hold it down a little bit. So I've just given it a bit of steam, so I don't want to loosen off all the interfacing. So that's my waist, there's my welt. You can see how it's pointing up the right way. And this is my pocket bag, so my hand can go into it. That's my waist again, so it's pointing downwards towards the hem. Right side's on the inside of the lining, hooray. And there's my little triangle, which is a bit better now. I've given it a little steam. It's lying a bit flatter, so I'm going to start at one triangle and I'm going to stitch the lining to it. Let's turn it over so I can show you. So back tack as close to the base there as I can get. I'll show you again once it's stitched, it'll be clearer. And then I'm going to stitch all around that pocket bag till I get to the other triangle, and then I'll back tack again. Let's go. So here we go. Back tack to start on that triangle to secure it as firmly as possible. And then I'm just going to zhuzh round my pocket bag, just laying the edge of the foot to the edge of the fabric here. Off we go. And then we'll get to that final triangle at the other side. And again, it's just pulling it all out and laying it all as flat as possible. And get as close into the base of that triangle as I can. And a back tack. So let's show you how that looks in real life. There we go. All stitched down. It needs a little bit of a press, but I'll show you these triangles. Look, there you go. I've got in as close as I can to the base of the triangle. And now I'm going to give that another little steam. There we are. It's looking very swish. So I'm going to now just pin down this welt, and I will hand sew these edges of the welt to the jacket. You might want to do it on your sewing machine, that's fine. I like them hand stitched. I think they look a bit nicer, a bit more polished. So literally just going to take needle and thread. I start in the middle of the welt because the top of the welt gets the most wear and the most sort of stress on it really when you're wearing it. So I don't want to make that the weakest point, which would be where I've started and finished. And I'm going to work my way back down to the middle and to the base. And then work back again just to make it doubly sure and secure. There we go. So stitch the other side and then you're done. That's your welt pocket.